Have you ever noticed that the most intelligent people you know rarely post anything online? While the world screams for attention, they remain silent. While everyone documents every second of their lives, they quietly live theirs. And you might think it's because they're shy, detached, or uninterested in the digital world. But what if this silence isn't a lack of participation? What if it's a form of intelligence? Because in a world addicted to noise, silence itself becomes a kind of brilliance. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you scrolled through social media and felt truly satisfied? Not entertained, not distracted, but deeply, meaningfully satisfied? The answer probably doesn't come quickly, and that's not an accident. Today, we're going to explore something most people never question: the radical intelligence of choosing to remain silent in the loudest era of human history. These people, those who stay silent online, see the world differently. They understand that every post, every story, every thought shared online is a piece of themselves given away. And they've learned something most haven't: that what is kept private often holds the most power. Let me share a story with you. There's a neuroscientist named Dr. Sarah Mitchell, not a public figure, no verified account, no thousands of followers. She's published groundbreaking research on memory and cognition. Her work has changed how we understand the human brain. But if you search for her on Instagram or Twitter, you'll find almost nothing. When asked about this in a private interview, she said something profound. "Every time I post something, I feel like I'm translating my experience into performance. And in that translation, something essential gets lost. The truth becomes a caption. The feeling becomes a filter. I'd rather keep the original." This is what the silent ones understand. Authenticity and performance cannot coexist in the same space. They don't need to prove their worth with a highlight reel. They don't measure their value by likes or their relevance by engagement. They know that validation from the crowd is temporary, but peace within yourself lasts. The economics of attention. We live in an era where attention is the new currency. The louder you are, the more visible you become. But here's the trap. The attention economy operates on a simple principle: supply and demand. And right now, there's an infinite supply of content and a finite amount of human attention. So what happens? Quality collapses, depth disappears, everything becomes about the hook, the headline, the viral moment. Studies from the Oxford Internet Institute show that the average person now spends 2 hours and 31 minutes per day on social media. That's 9 2-hours per year. 38 full days of your life every single year scrolling. And what are we scrolling through? Other people's curated realities, other people's performances. But visibility isn't the same as value. And silence doesn't mean absence. In fact, those who choose not to post are often the ones most present in their own lives. They don't live to be seen. They live to feel. While others record the sunset, they watch it until it fades. While others pose for the perfect picture, they're too busy existing in the moment. That, right there, is a different kind of intelligence, the intelligence of presence. Let me explain what I mean. There's a famous study from Harvard University called "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." Researchers found that people spend 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're currently doing. And guess what they discovered? The more our mind wanders, the less happy we are. But there's another layer to this. When you're constantly documenting your life for an audience, your mind isn't just wandering, it's performing. You're not at dinner with friends, you're at a photo opportunity. You're not at a concert, you're creating content. You're not on vacation, you're producing a narrative. The silent ones have rejected this. They've chosen presence over performance, the neuroscience of being present. When you're fully present, not thinking about how to capture the moment, not worried about what angle looks best, not composing a caption in your head, your brain enters what neuroscientists call a flow state. In this state, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-consciousness and self-criticism, actually quiets you down. You stop being an observer of your own life and become a participant again. This is where joy lives. This is where meaning exists. In the unrecorded, unshared, unperformed moments. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control. It means your sense of worth doesn't depend on how others see you. It comes from within, and that's something people rarely develop in a world built on external validation. Think about children before the age of social media. They didn't need an audience to validate their joy. They built sandcastles not for likes, but because building was fun. They sang not for followers, but because singing felt good. The silent ones have remembered this truth. They've returned to an intrinsic relationship with their own experiences. When you post less, you think more. When you stop trying to be noticed, you start noticing more. Your thoughts get deeper, your emotions sharper. You stop reacting and start observing. And that's where the hidden intelligence begins to bloom in silence. Have you ever scrolled through your feed and felt smaller without knowing why? That subtle anxiety that comes from seeing everyone's perfect life? That's not just emotion, it's neuroscience. Your brain compares, measures, and concludes that you're behind. But the ones who stay silent know this trap. They step outside it. The comparison machine. Let me tell you about something called social comparison theory, developed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. Festinger discovered that humans have an innate drive to evaluate themselves, and we do this primarily by comparing ourselves to others. Before social media, these comparisons were limited. You compared yourself to your neighbors, your coworkers, maybe the people in your town. But now you're comparing yourself to everyone, everywhere, all at once. The entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, the fitness influencer in Miami, the travel blogger in Bali, the successful friend from high school who seems to have it all figured out. And here's the devastating part. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. A study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day led to significant reductions in loneliness and depression. Why? Because the comparison machine had been turned off. The silent ones understand this instinctively. They've learned to protect their peace the same way you'd protect a sacred space, by keeping it private. They understand something simple yet revolutionary. Not everything needs to be shared to be real. Some things are more alive precisely because they remain unposted. The authenticity paradox. There's an irony in social media that most people never recognize. The more you try to appear authentic, the less authentic you become. Because true authenticity doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It simply is. When someone posts just being real, or keeping it 100, there's already a layer of performance happening. They're signaling authenticity, which means they're aware of an audience, which means they're performing. The silent ones avoid this paradox entirely. They're not trying to appear authentic. They're simply living authentically, away from the gaze of others. In a digital age where everyone performs, choosing not to perform is rebellion. Choosing silence is strength. Choosing privacy is wisdom. They know that once you expose a moment, you lose AI, part of it. That posting your happiness to prove you're happy often means you're not sure. That the more you try to curate how people see you, the less you see yourself clearly. Let me share something personal with you. I once knew someone who documented everything. Every meal, every outing, every thought. Their online presence was immaculate, perfectly curated, aesthetically flawless, enviably interesting. But in private conversations, they would say, "I don't know who I am anymore. I feel like I've become my own brand. I can't have an experience without immediately thinking about how it will look online." This is the hidden cost of constant exposure. You begin to live for the documentation rather than the experience itself. The fragmentation of self-psychologists have identified something called self-presentation fatigue, the exhausting process of constantly managing how others perceive you. When you're always on, always aware of your audience, always curating, you fragment yourself into multiple versions. The version you present online, The version you think you are, the version you actually are when no one's watching. And the distance between these versions creates profound anxiety. The silent ones refuse this fragmentation. They maintain wholeness by keeping their private life private. So they log off, they disconnect, and in doing so, they reconnect with reality, with their emotions, with who they truly are. The sacred and the shared. There's an ancient concept, across many traditions, that some experiences are sacred precisely because they're not shared. A monk's meditation, a writer's first draft, a couple's intimate moment, a parent's quiet time with their child. The moment you expose these experiences to an audience, their nature changes. They become performance, they become content, they lose their sacredness. The silent ones understand this instinctively. They know that the most meaningful moments in life are the ones witnessed by few or none. You might think they're invisible, but they're not. They're simply living in a dimension most people have forgotten exists. The offline one, the unfiltered one, the one where life isn't measured by engagement, but by depth. They observe instead of reacting. They think before they speak. They feel before they post. And they've learned that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. There's a concept in philosophy called negative capability, first described by poet John Keats. It's the ability to remain in uncertainty, mystery, and doubt without reaching for answers or explanations. In our current world, negative capability is almost extinct. We don't sit with questions. We Google them. We don't tolerate uncertainty. We scroll until we're distracted. We don't allow silence. We fill it with noise. But the silent ones have mastered negative capability. They're comfortable with not knowing, with not sharing, with not performing. Because the loudest minds aren't always the ones talking. Sometimes they're the ones listening, the ones reflecting, the ones learning in the quiet corners of their own thoughts. The Lost Art of Deep Thinking. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, argues that the ability to focus without distraction is becoming increasingly rare and valuable. But more than that, it's becoming a form of intelligence that separates the exceptional from the mediocre. When you're constantly interrupted by notifications, by the urge to check, by the need to post, your brain never enters deep states of thinking. You never have those shower thoughts that solve problems, those long walks where ideas crystallize, those quiet evenings where you suddenly understand something about yourself. The silent ones protect this space fiercely. They understand that the best ideas, the deepest insights, the most meaningful revelations come not from the feed, but from the silence between thoughts. And maybe that's the greatest intelligence of all, the ability to live without needing to be seen, to think without needing applause, to exist without leaving digital footprints everywhere you go. That's not ignorance, that's evolution. So the next time you notice someone who rarely posts, don't assume they've disappeared. Maybe they've just returned to themselves. Because in a world that measures life by visibility, disappearing might just be the most intelligent thing you can do. There's a beautiful paradox in all of this. By choosing to be less visible online, you become more visible to yourself. You notice things you'd been too distracted to see. The way sunlight moves across your room in the morning, the specific texture of a moment that would be lost in a photograph, the subtle shifts in your own emotional landscape, the voice of your intuition, no longer drowned out by the noise. The silent ones aren't disconnected from the world. They're deeply connected, just not through screens. They have conversations that last hours, not minutes. They read books that challenge them, not just headlines that confirm their biases. They sit with their thoughts long enough to know what they actually think. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, they develop something rare, a coherent sense of self that isn't dependent on external validation. This is the hidden intelligence we've been exploring. Not the intelligence of knowledge, but the intelligence of wisdom. Not the intelligence of information, but the intelligence of insight. It's the intelligence that knows when to speak and when to listen, when to share and when to keep sacred, when to be visible and when to disappear. And now I'll ask you something. When was the last time you lived a beautiful moment and didn't share it with anyone? When was the last time you kept something sacred just for you? Maybe that's where your own hidden intelligence begins. Not in the perfect post or the viral moment, but in the quiet decision to keep something to yourself. To let an experience be complete without documentation. To trust that your life has value even when no one's watching. Because the deepest truth is this: the most profound version of your life is the one only you will ever know. And maybe that's not a loss. Maybe that's the whole point. If this made you rethink the way you live online, subscribe to the channel and join this space of quiet reflection. Because here, silence speaks louder than noise.